Let's cover the September 9th hearing that just took place. The following is a quick breakdown, and then we'll just dive right into it. On September 9th, 2025, the Congressional Task Force on the Declassification of Federal Secrets held a public hearing on unidentified aerial phenomena, officially titled Restoring Trust Through Transparency and Whistleblower Protection. Chaired by Congresswoman Anna Palunalina, this was the third such hearing in as many years, part of a historic series that began on May 17th, 2022, the first public congressional hearing on UFOs in more than 5 decades. In fact, filmmaker James Fox is fond of saying that in the past few years, we've had more UFO hearings than in the past 50. So this is the first video I'm going to make on the hearing that was only a few weeks ago. And I'm going to cover all the parts that I think are relevant and interesting. And it will probably take me 2 or 3 videos to cover everything I want to cover. So let's just dig right in.
And we cannot maintain trust in government if we keep the American people in the dark. Now, Congress has tried to fix this problem. Congress tried to create formal channels through the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, also known as AARO, and the Intelligence Community Inspector General for service members and officials to make disclosures. But the reality, the reports come in are often to brush aside, slow-walked, or met with skepticism rather than serious investigation. Recently, the former AARO director, known as Sean Kirkpatrick, attacked our witnesses and members on this committee. It should be noted that he's a documented liar and brings into question what his purpose at AARO really was if it was not to follow up on investigations and disclose his findings to members of Congress.
I think it's noteworthy that Chairwoman Luna literally called former head of AARO Kirkpatrick a documented liar. He is definitely a weird dude, in my opinion. His sheer persistence and aggression toward whistleblowers, Congress, and the UFO subject in general, to downplay it and make it look conspiratorial and foolish, does not come off as professional. It comes off as desperate, obsessive, and highly intentional. Not something that I would think a professional would, within the intelligence community, would do unless they wanted to influence how people perceive the UFO issue, which seems to me would be something that would be well beyond his responsibilities. Let people make up their own mind. We don't need your commentary and your derision. There are a laundry list of weird things that former head of AARO Kirkpatrick has done, and I'm just going to share a few very briefly. While he was head of AARO, the day after the July 26, 2023 hearing with David Grush, David Fravor, and Ryan Graves, Sean Kirkpatrick issued a diatribe on his LinkedIn page. Here is a portion of it, and I quote, "I cannot let yesterday's hearing pass without sharing how insulting it was to the officers of the Department of Defense and intelligence community who chose to join AARO, many with not unreasonable anxieties about the career risks this would entail," he wrote. And I'll just say, well, look, I'm sorry you're insulted, but if you and the U.S. government are saying one thing and the witnesses and whistleblowers are saying another thing, then someone is lying, obviously, or mistaken dearly, or both. And maybe it's you, Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick. Maybe it's not the witnesses that keep coming forward year after year, new witnesses, unconnected witnesses, not the same little circle like you sometimes suggest. And we'll get more into that as we go further. And then on January 19th, 2024, he wrote an article in Scientific America about a month and a half after he left office. In his Scientific American article, Kirkpatrick repeatedly took aim at the witnesses and whistleblowers driving recent UFO revelations. He described being overwhelmed by sensational but unsupported claims and dismissed their testimony as a whirlwind of tall tales, fabrication, and second-hand or third-hand retellings. He characterized the core group as a small group of interconnected believers with possibly less than honest intentions, accused them of pure unsupported beliefs, and even said people believe these UFO stories simply because they've heard them loudly and often, not because they're true. He went on to label certain whistleblowers conspiracy-minded and suspect, and even chided members of Congress for preferring to opine about aliens to the press rather than display critical thinking skills. Now, this article in Scientific America that he wrote is titled, "Here's What I Learned as the U.S. Government's UFO Hunter." Now, honestly, he comes off as like a guy who recently broke up with his girlfriend and is just feeling very vindictive or upset about the whole thing. Not as an intelligence officer with repose and discipline. So in the opening of this hearing, Chairwoman Anna Paulina Luna stated, and I quote, "Recently, the former AARO director known as Sean Kirkpatrick attacked our witnesses and members on this committee." Now, Sean Kirkpatrick did this even before the hearing even occurred. My pal Chris Bowman helped me to track down where he made these statements, and I'm going to read it for you. This statement by Kirkpatrick was given to Stephen Greenstreet of the New York Post, and I quote, "If Luna and her lunatics want to continue to parade charlatans and grifters in front of an audience to satisfy her need for playhouse politics, then the American people should demand accountability of all the wasted taxpayer money and congressional time she has derailed from more serious issues facing this country. Clearly, she has been working quietly with these pseudoscientists and attention seekers to script a hearing and then launch it as a surprise onto the world, possibly to distract, or more likely because that's all she is qualified to do. In the face of international crisis, where is the accountability? Where is DOJ when there is a legitimate target of fraud, waste, and abuse in Congress? Where is the DOJ investigation into the congressional misappropriation and corruption associated with trying to funnel money to these grifters and actively obstruct legitimate work by the DOD and IC? It's a disgrace to the Congress and the U.S. government and only serves to provide reality TV." And so I just find the whole thing very, very strange. His demeanor and his handling of the UFO issue, it's bizarre. It's just not normal to me.
The American people are not fragile. They do not need to be shielded like children from reality. What they cannot tolerate and what they will not forgive is a government that withholds the truth and punishes those who dare to speak up. I want to close with this. Future generations will look back at this moment and ask what we did when presented with the unknown. Did we look away, embarrassed or afraid, or did we pursue the truth with courage? I intend to be on the side of truth, transparency, and accountability, and I hope my colleagues on this task force will be able to do the same.
Persecution, harassment, threats toward whistleblowers, UFO witnesses is pervasive throughout all of UFO history. And it is a fact. It is not a theory. It is not a hypothesis. It is an absolute fact. If you want to argue that UFOs could be all misidentifications, that's a fair argument. But it's not a fair argument to assert that witnesses and whistleblowers have not been threatened and harassed for decades. This is verifiable through and through. And in my opinion, it's one of the best pieces of evidence that there is a cover-up. Because if there wasn't a cover-up, why would people like David Grush and many others throughout history be harassed and intimidated for talking about something that doesn't exist or have any validity? And I like what Anna Paulina Luna said, that the American people cannot tolerate and will not forgive is a government that withholds the truth and punishes those who dare to speak up, which is so outlandish if this is true. Not only are they withholding the truth from the public so that we're all in the dark about the nature of our universe, but they're also harassing and punishing those who want the rest of us to know. I mean, that is mob gangster-like mentality. So it really is profound. I'll remind you of a pretty fairly famous tweet that I tweeted back in December 9th, 2023 that writes, "Unpopular take, the cover-up will be more disturbing to the public than the revelation of aliens." I still stick by that assessment. I think we don't need to be shielded from the truth. I think that when we learn we're not alone, it will be surprising, maybe even shocking to some, maybe even disturbing to others. But what will eclipse all of that is learning that our own government was willing to go to basically any length and measure to keep us in the dark from knowing the nature of our universe. I think at least in the long run, even if it's not the short term, that is what's going to shake the foundation of society to its core.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairwoman Luna, Ranking Member Crockett, and members of the task force for giving us the opportunity to testify today. My name is Jeffrey Nuccetelli. I'm a former military police officer with 16 years of active duty service in the U.S. Air Force. I'm here today because the American people have both the right and the responsibility to know the truth about unidentified aerial phenomenon. That truth remains hidden, classified and silenced by fear, retaliation, stigma, and confusion. Today, we are here to help break that silence. Between 2003 and 2005, 5 UAP incidents occurred at Vandenberg Air Force Base, home to the National Missile Defense Project, a top national security priority. At the time, we were conducting launches deemed by the National Reconnaissance Office as the most important in 25 years. These were historic launches. These facilities were vital, and they were repeatedly visited by UAP. Each incident was witnessed by multiple personnel, documented, investigated, and reported up the chain of command. We sent information up, but we got no guidance down on how to handle these events. I personally witnessed one of these events and investigated others as they occurred. 6 other service members have provided me with the information that I will share with you today. The incursions began on October 14, 2003, when Boeing contractors reported a massive glowing red square silently hovering over 2 missile defense sites. After several minutes, it drifted further east onto the base and vanished over the hills. This event, now known as the Vandenberg Red Square, was referenced by Representative Luna at the first hearing on this topic. Official Air Force records of this event are in possession by AARO and the FBI. Later that night, while I was on duty, security guards at a critical launch site reported a bright, fast-moving object over the ocean. I responded to the incident. Chaos ensued over the radio as the object approached rapidly. I heard my friends screaming, "It's coming right at us, it's coming right for us, and now it's right here." Moments later, I heard them say that it had shot off and was gone. When I arrived on scene, I talked to 5 shaken witnesses who described a massive triangular craft larger than a football field that hovered silently for about 45 seconds over their entry control point before shooting away at impossible speed. About a week later, another patrol reported a light over the ocean, behaving erratically. Believing it might be an unannounced aircraft, they declared an emergency, and an armed response force responded. Before the forces could arrive, the object descended and either landed or hovered on our flight line, and then took off again at impossible speed. The witnesses to this event were threatened and intimidated afterward. They were told to keep quiet and think about what they were reporting. After that, things did get quiet until about 2005, when another patrol reported a massive triangular craft larger than a C-130 silently floating over the installation. He watched it for a few minutes. It traveled west and disappeared into the night. And then I had my own encounter, again in 2005. I was off duty, sitting in my backyard with 2 other police officers when we noticed what first appeared to be a satellite in orbit, but it wasn't acting like a satellite. The light was strange, it was pulsing, and then it started to maneuver. It dropped in elevation. At times it would vanish from view and reappear in a different location in the sky, and eventually it reappeared 200 feet over my house. It was a 30-foot diameter sphere of light. My friends and I watched it for a moment, and then it gently accelerated and traveled up and disappeared into the stars.
Now, let's say all of these various sightings actually occurred, which in my personal perspective is plausible simply because the reporting is not ambiguous, like a dot in the sky or a weird light. The witnesses claim they saw massive, unambiguous objects. And the funny part is, like, if there really is a UFO presence, just consider how pervasive it is. Like, this is literally just one individual, Jeffrey Nuccetelli, revealing reports that him and others saw. And he's just one person. Commander David Fravor, just one person. Numerous people in the military in every walk of life, just one person. It just goes to show, like, if there really is a non-human presence here engaging our world, it is so insanely pervasive. They're all over the world. They're going in all different places throughout the world, in our oceans, in our skies, school landings, abductions, all allegedly. The United States, the United Kingdom, crashes and recoveries, Brazil, Roswell, New Mexico, and so forth. It's stunningly pervasive. So it makes you wonder, like, how many beings are there that are engaging with our world? What is their relationship with our world? What is their intention? What are they acquiring or developing or cultivating by being here? These are all paramount questions that the cover-up prevents us from asking, inquiring, engaging, and researching, which is, of course, the pinnacle of absurdity. So I've just decided that the way I'm going to do these videos on this hearing is that I'm going to focus on a singular witness in every installment. So today we're focusing on Jeffrey Nuccetelli. He's a United States Air Force veteran and a career federal employee with more than 20 years of experience in national security, law enforcement, and public administration. Let's continue this video.
What do you and your friends think about it today? You all have talked about it. Yeah. I mean, so what do you think about your experience as a collective group? That'll be my last question, Madam Chairwoman.
I mean, we've been talking about this for 20 years. We don't know what we saw. What we saw changed our lives and the way we think about everything. It was incredibly profound. The object I saw, I don't even know if it was an object. It was a light. It was an orb. It didn't look like a craft, but it did look solid. And that's what we talk about. We noticed the object, and this was a pattern across all the encounters. Someone would see a light. They would pay attention to the light. And then the object responds. It performs for you. And then they come down and they investigate you. So it's almost like they're curious. So that's the thing we primarily talk about. Why did it come after we noticed it? Maybe it noticed us after we noticed it.
So Jeffrey Nuccetelli said he's been talking about this event that he had with 2 off-duty police officers for 20 years. And in this event, as he reports, he saw a 30-foot diameter sphere of light 200 feet above where him and the other 2 individuals were. Now, that would have to be a pretty profound event to continue talking about it for 20 years. I'm sure there are very wonderful and spiritual and profound events that have happened in your life that you have stopped talking about long before 20 years. And that's significant to me because this demonstrates how extraordinary it is if we're not alone and we're being engaged by other intelligences. So extraordinary, in fact, that people that have these experiences continue talking about them for decades afterward, which only underscores how important disclosure is, because we are all missing out on this dimension of life that we are being withheld from, in my opinion, because governments have decided to cover it up. Corporations, militaries, intelligence communities decided to keep it insulated from the rest of 8 billion of us, which is a glaring travesty and injustice. And it's interesting how he talked about the pattern that he seemed to have gathered from the other experiences that he relayed and his own experiences. Like, why did the object come in proximity of the witnesses? It doesn't appear random. It appears intentional. This doesn't appear to be like you're in the forest and a mountain line happens to cross your path out of complete happenstance. Instead, there does seem to be a reality with UAP that they often are not just in a place that people happen to see them, but instead that they want to be seen, which of course is a huge part of the mystery. It demonstrates engagement. It demonstrates intentionality. It demonstrates intelligence. It deepens the mystery of why they're here and why they want to be seen unambiguously, but yet don't allow themselves to be documented in the public domain in a fashion that would completely change the conversation about this topic, because we would finally have proof.
For both of you guys, and also Mr. Nuccetelli, if this were sanctioned by the U.S. government, even though you have a clearance, but it's classified above the clearance level, do you see any reason why they would allow you access, being present, viewing it, hearing it, being around it? Like, what is this, an accident? Like, does the U.S. government make these kind of accidents? They make accidents, mistakes like this? Like, we're doing this test of this new system, and we forgot these guys were standing here. Does that sound like something that the U.S. government would do?
No, sir. Some of the launches we were doing were like $5 billion projects that had taken like 10 years to develop the technology. And these objects were coming right up to the launch pad. So any kind of mistake, it could cause a catastrophe.
Right.
So it's very confusing why these objects would be operating in and around our bases or during training exercises.
So it would lend you to believe that the U.S. government had nothing to do with whatever it is you saw.
Correct.
They wouldn't want it there because it would potentially interrupt the proceedings at the time. Was there an after action? Was there a discussion by your command? Was there an investigation? It's pretty significant activities that you were involved in. Was there an investigation that you know of?
We conducted investigations in real time.
Right.
And we document all the evidence, but as far as anything from higher up, I don't know if there was an investigation done. No information came down on what we should do.
Were you ever interviewed at someone else's request?
About that incident?
Yeah, about the incident.
I don't believe so.
Do you think you find that odd? If something happens, you're around multi-million, maybe billion-dollar operations and launches of national security interests, very sensitive. There's an anomaly in the operation.
The only person witnessed it, saw a UAP at Vandenberg at that time frame, that was interviewed was the one that witnessed the thing land.
Why wouldn't, I don't know why I'm asking you, but it seems to me that we would want to interview everybody associated, even not associated, to find out if they were associated.
From an earlier segment of this hearing, Jeffrey Nuccetelli stated in regards to the person that potentially saw it land, and I quote, "They declared an emergency and an armed response force responded before the forces could arrive. The object descended and either landed or hovered on our flight line and then took off again at impossible speed. The witnesses to this event were threatened and intimidated. Afterward, they were told to keep quiet and think about what they were reporting." So this gets back to a theme that I cover a lot, which is, if there's nothing to see here and it's not really UFOs, then why are they getting threatened and harassed to keep quiet? Why would the Air Force care if people spoke about something being seen that doesn't exist, right? It makes no sense. And if this giant triangular-shaped craft landed on the Air Force Base, that's about as unambiguous as you can get. That's not seeing Venus and thinking it's something anomalous. If something lands unambiguously that does not look like any technology anybody on this planet has, well, that's highly compelling.
I was in some of the weddings. These are people that I worked with every day of my life. Usually when the events were occurring, we were all together. There'd be 40, 60, 100 people on duty during these encounters.
Really?
Yeah.
All seeing it at the same time?
Yes, these encounters were playing out while we were on duty, and we were responding and investigating in real time as they occurred.
And as you said, the importance of your operation was highly important because they said it's the most important in 25 years, the research that you were conducting.
For that particular launch, we had 500 Air Force police officers guarding the launch. 500 people. It was that critical.
Wow.
But had this thing showed up, we wouldn't have been able to do anything to prevent it showing up.
Real quickly, can you just redescribe size and whether or not you heard anything? It was how big, wise?
The two square objects were at least as large as a football field. The second encounter, they think it was much larger than a football field. We're talking like flying buildings. The object I saw was about 30 feet in diameter.
And to confirm, you were not the only person that saw this?
Correct.
I think I was also told that there was also reports of this in a police blotter in the area. Can you confirm that?
Yes, that's the documentation that I maintained from the original event and turned into AARO and the FBI.
Very interesting testimony by Jeffrey Nuccetelli. Mr. Nuccetelli, thank you for testifying at the hearing and informing the American people about what's going on with this enigma. Your testimony will absolutely put pressure on the U.S. government to stop lying to the public about what they know about this phenomena or these phenomena. I will be making other videos covering the hearing, focusing on specific witnesses, whistleblowers. So thank you so much for watching. Please do not forget to subscribe. If you'd like to support this channel, you could become a patron, you could become a YouTube member, you could give me a one-time donation. All those potentialities can be accessed in the description box below, or you can just slap a like on this bad boy, and I'll appreciate it so much. Thanks so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.